In 2000, a 10-year-old boy sat in a doctor's office in Rosario, Argentina. The diagnosis was growth hormone deficiency. His body was not producing enough of the hormone that makes boys grow. Without daily injections, costing roughly $1,500 a month, he would stop growing at around 4 feet tall. His father, Jorge, was a steelworker. His mother, Celia, worked in a magnet factory. They could not afford the treatment. Every club in Argentina, Newell's Old Boys, River Plate, looked at the cost and looked away. Lionel Andres Messi was born on June the 24th, 1987, in Rosario, Argentina. Rosario was a city of ambition and grit, steel mills, dock workers, and passionate football. Football was the language of the neighborhood. Messi kicked his first ball at 3 years old. By age 5, he was playing with Grandelli, the local neighborhood club. His grandmother, Celia, was the one who first brought him to training. She died when Messi was 10. He has dedicated every goal to her ever since. At Newell's Old Boys Youth Academy, coaches noticed something immediately. He was always the smallest player on the pitch, but he moved differently. Low, fast, almost impossible to knock off the ball. He scored 500 goals in youth football for Newell's Old Boys. The Newell's faithful called his youth team the Machine of 87. Then the diagnosis arrived, and everything changed. The injections had to be administered into his leg every single night. Messi later recalled being embarrassed in front of teammates. Different, fragile, set apart. Newell's Old Boys covered the cost for a time. Then they stopped. River Plate in Buenos Aires showed interest. Argentina's biggest club, Barcelona's youth director, Carlos Rexach, agreed to watch the boy train. It took less than 10 minutes. Rexach knew immediately. He had never seen a child move like that. But Barcelona's board hesitated. Paying for a foreign child's medical treatment was unusual. The lawyers needed to review it. Weeks passed. No decision. Jorge Messi pressed Rexach for an answer. Rexach, unwilling to let the talent slip away, did something extraordinary. On December 14, 2000, he wrote a contract on a paper napkin. It committed FC Barcelona to signing Lionel Messi and covering his medical costs. Messi and his father returned to Rosario to prepare. The family faced an agonizing choice: leave Argentina entirely, or stay and watch the opportunity die. Messi's mother and brothers would eventually stay behind in Rosario. Jorge and Lionel moved to Barcelona alone in February 2001. Barcelona placed them in a modest apartment near the training ground. Messi was 13. He spoke no Catalan and little Spanish beyond his Argentine accent. He was lonely in a way that most 13-year-olds never have to be. He trained every day at La Masia, Barcelona's famous youth academy. The other boys were physically bigger, older players placed in his age group by the club. His growth hormone injections continued every night without fail. Barcelona's coaching staff debated whether to play him in his own age group or a year down. One internal club report from 2002 quietly noted the best player in his generation. But Barcelona's internal politics created one more obstacle. In 2003, Barcelona changed their technical director. The new man wanted to review all youth contracts. For months, Messi's future at the club was genuinely uncertain. He had left his family, his country, and his language for a contract that might not hold. At 14, he was still among the smallest players on the pitch. Opponents would target him physically. Late tackles, deliberate fouls. He got up every time. By 2003, word was spreading inside the club that something special was happening at La Masia. On November 16, 2003, aged 16, Messi played his first friendly for Barcelona's first team. He was substituted on against Porto. He lasted only minutes before being sent off for elbowing. The red card shook him. Messi came back from the hamstring tear in the 2005-2006 season and never looked back. The 2006 Doho 7 season announced him to the world. Against Getafe in April 2007, he scored a goal, later voted the greatest in La Liga history. He collected the ball in his own half and dribbled past 5 defenders before sliding it into the net. It was so similar to Diego Maradona's 1986 World Cup goal the commentators fell silent before roaring. In May 2009, Barcelona won the treble heirs, La Liga, Copa del Rey, and the Champions League. Messi had 19 goals and 17 assists in that treble season. That December, he won his first Ballon d'Or, the award for the world's best footballer. He would win it 4 times in a row: 2009, 2010, 2011, 2012. In 2012, he set a record that stood alone in the history of football: 91 goals in a single calendar year. No player in the history of the sport had ever scored that many goals in a single year. He finished with 8 Ballon d'Or awards over his career, more than any player in history. But one thing had eluded him for most of his career: a World Cup with Argentina. Argentina lost the 2014 World Cup final to Germany 1-0 in extra time. He sat on the Maracanã grass in silence after the final whistle. He came desperately close again in 2015 and 2016, losing the Copa America final twice in a row. After the 2016 Copa America final loss, he announced his retirement from international football. He was talked back. He returned. He kept going. Then came Qatar, November 2022. He was 35 years old, ancient by football standards. Argentina lost their first match to Saudi Arabia. The country fell into shock. Then Messi took over. Goal, assist, goal, performance after performance. On December 18, 2022, in one of the greatest finals in World Cup history, Argentina beat France. Here is what the story of Lionel Messi actually proves. Not that talent is everything. Talent walked into every doctor's office in Argentina and was turned away. Not that hard work alone is enough. Plenty of people worked harder and never made it. What the story proves is something more uncomfortable: that greatness requires every single thing at once: talent, stubbornness, sacrifice, luck, and the people who believe before anyone else does. Carl's rucksack wrote on a napkin because he refused to let bureaucracy bury what he'd seen with his own eyes. Jorge Messi bet everything on a sick boy when every institution in Argentina had already passed. And the boy himself carried a needle into his leg every single night for years. Not to be great, just to grow. Every time he scores and points that finger to the sky, he is pointing at his grandmother Celia, the first person who ever believed he was worth the effort. That is the distance between the diagnosis and the gold.